Okay, I just recorded a short journal and I'm on a roll, so I'll record this second one. And hopefully not get them mixed up and mislabeled and so on. All right, so this one is from, it actually precedes that other one. This one is from October 4th, the first one of that day, and the Mayan day was 6 Lamat, star, rabbit, or Venus. Go figure what those have in common. And it has 3 links with it so far, and they're not all Abraham vids, so do check it out. I don't know what wants to be said here, just that I'm feeling really good. I'm not sure I can sit with that. I often do, but I've also discovered that it's a great time to journal. It really helps the journals flow. I'm going through another or a continuing Abraham-Hicks phase. It's not that I can't seem to get enough of it. Instead, my use of it has shifted. It's not so much that I'm looking for information or answers. I'm not. Heck, I hardly have any questions, and if you know me well, you'll know that's the case. No, what I'm doing is using their words, their energy, to consciously help raise my vibration. And it works. If you don't find that it does, then give listening to them from heart a try. You may find that makes all the difference. So, I am so content that I just don't know what to do with myself. Now, this is a bit funny considering that I've got a dental appointment on Tuesday and I've been having pain with a couple of teeth, and that I overspent this month, which I don't remember the last time I did this. And so I'm writing rather closer to the bone than I'm used to. In other words, it's not from looking at the externals that I'm content. No, the contentment comes first. It's primary, and I'm so glad I've discovered this. And that Abraham really harmonizes with me on that. I love the way they train people into realizing that the physical, what is no more real than the vibrational reality, which isn't seen with the senses and which actually and must come first. Just because our eyes don't pick up what's in our vortex, what we're in process of manifesting, doesn't make that level any less real. It's actually more real, if anything. Don't you love how things go in the backwards realm of 3D? I do. I'm about ready to just start looking at everything by realizing up front that whatever it is, it's backwards some way, just like everything we've been taught. Now, that would be nice to perhaps get a bit proactive with this reverse seeing, or seeing into how things work here, but counterintuitively. Hey, it's been strange for so long that I guess now the strange is really seeming more like the real. Now, of course, that means all that supposedly real stuff isn't that. Oh well. Being content with not knowing is what empowers such stuff, my friends. Try it out. Mind that always wants to know, well, that's what to watch out for. Not that it's wrong. It isn't. It's just that I don't suppose it's really possible to know anything that's truly real in this land of make-believe, in this self-created reality. Not with the physical tools. What's real is what we believe is real. And since beliefs are pretty easy to change, so is reality. Isn't that cool? Oh well. Wave me goodbye as I go down this road a ways. That is, if you're not ready to take this particular hike yourself. If you are, step into heart. What I found out is that there is no avenue that's unworthy of exploration. You know, it's just if it feels good to heart, then go for it, whatever it is. I'm attaching a generous number of links, including one that presents emotion as our primary manifestation, the one which everything physical must follow as very secondary stuff. Whenever it seems to be a bit too strange, I just remind myself that this is the backwards realm, just as Nancy Dannison says. And I'll link you in the body of the journal to her stuff. Actually, I picked up the term from her, knowing immediately how well it fit the first time I heard her use it. Where am I going with this? You think I know? Does it matter? Not if we're following art, it doesn't. For the real message is delivered energetically, not in the words. Words which are incapable of holding the higher frequency stuff. Oh, I love words, and quite a lot. I've made it my business, my joy, actually, to delve really deeply into them. Still, we're all multidimensional, right? Do you know this about yourself? You've got to go inside to explore this one. Well, that also means we have other tools more at home in the other dimensions, such as vibrational communication, vibrational manifestation. So we can be really great with this or that tool in 3D, but I don't care to let that limit me in accessing the other dimensional stuff. I was just contemplating loving the self. How it's such a strange thing that most of us as adults are not yet very good at. How it's actually even a bit of a shock the first time we hear it as an idea. I was watching myself, amazed at the depth of love and appreciation I experience for sunlight and crystal, how they work together, how deeply I love them both individually, I'm a sun gazer, and together. Then too, I've often shared with you how easy it is for me to love anything these eyes light upon, but you've got to be in heart to get the sense of this. As they say, words don't teach. And I think you can feel the truth of that. It's true, at least for me. And yet, even so, it still takes an effort, an intention to turn that love upon self. Now, how strange is that? Talk about backwards. Most of us, by now, have realized that all love that we share with any part of life first rests on how well we currently love the self. Isn't that kind of strange? I think so. Lately, a new button appeared on my YouTube channel in the info section. It's called custom thumbnail or custom thumb. So it lets me take an intentional picture instead of selecting from the three the application randomly takes. And it's kind of nice. So it causes me to go through the video looking for a good image. And that's where I've noticed a change. Now, some will think I'm nuts, but that's okay, as they'd be right in their world. But I'm starting to fall in love with that gal on the screen. To me, she's becoming more and more lovely somehow. I notice myself smiling like a fool at her image, as if coaxing her to be a little more free with the smiles. Hey, I warned you, certifiable, but happy. It's a great combination. So, why don't we more naturally love the self? I'd like to say that babies do, but not really. Such things as them being separate from anything don't even enter their consciousness until later in life, after receiving some hurts. As we look at any typical childhood, it's easy enough to see how we get self-love trained right out of us, taught as we are to please others, authority figures mostly. We get into the perform or be punished thing early on. Oh, some punishments are very subtle, such as being ignored, but they're intentional, and that intention hurts all the same. We're super sensitive when we don't have all of our guards up, and babies haven't developed them yet. It's an intention to control us, to train us up into nice little people pleasers. And in our love, we submit, we conform. And we don't need to judge nor condemn anyone who took part in our training either. Isn't it easy enough to recognize that they were, one and all, doing the very best they could at the time? So let's stay in heart with this, not letting any sort of judgment drag us away. The more we take our power back, the more we'll take control of our energy, of our thoughts, and our attitude as well. Early on, we're taught to put pretty much all of our focus on the outside world, on things external, supposedly, to the self. It's the left brain way of life, and it's quite natural to the brain, so it's pretty easy to do. After all, eyes cannot see themselves, so it's much easier to focus on what we see. I guess the major exception to this would be church and religion or spirituality. For those brought up with this, it's the one area in which our focus is sometimes, at least, brought to be within. And those who study meditation are also blessed to bring their focus inward, and yet I don't recall any encouragement toward loving myself in these things. We're taught, once again, to love the other guy, to forgive them and such, not so much the self. A lot of them teach you to judge the self. Well, I've got good news. We're all adults now, and since we are each one in charge of the self, we can rewrite that whole script. Taking our power back is one of the greatest gifts effects of the incoming age, of the drastically different feeling of this part of the galaxy being above the galactic plane. Rising frequencies support us coming into these realizations. So let's ride the wave. Let's all agree to give up thinking we're these body-mind things, these avatars, and that'll help a good bit. Eckhart Tolle is a good one to teach us that we are more the space than what's in it. There's way more space than stuff, you know. He also encourages focus on the empty spots between the words. Much the same thing. Let's let that settle in for a moment or two. It's a big one. We are the space. We contain everything. That means the body, the house, the car, the trees, the earth, they're all actually in us. Can you make room for that radical shift in perspective? Can you extend your sensors out into that? You'll find you're already there. When you do. That's what I find. If you can, it can be a lot of fun. And it's also a good way to discover, to uncover more of the self that's usually hidden, tucked out of sight by our belief in being a human. So yeah, it requires a good bit of giving up thought, certain thoughts, or at least of having some good breathing space between us and the mind, until we firmly recognize that we're not that, or that we're not limited to that, because we are that. Then habit takes over and keeps us locked in old patterns of thought. Nothing wrong with that, but it's also nice to take a break from it, don't you think? Take a vacation from your own mind. It's cool. We tend to take everything too seriously anyway, have you noticed? We also, or mine does, we also tend to put things in an either-or context, limiting the choices that are actually available. Either or, right and wrong, black and white. That goes with the tendency to judge right and wrong and such, not recognizing the vast panoply of options that are truly available when we break out of the box. The deal is that such thinking keeps us pretty well locked into 3D. I have nothing at all against 3D. I rather like it, being in love with life as I am, and not in a hurry to leave. Now, sure, it has its uncomfortable parts. Well, what doesn't? The beauty of 3D, well, one of the beauties of 3D is that the only constant is change. And that means no matter what difficulty we may experience, it only lasts for a time. Nothing like that is permanent here. Bet you've noticed. Appreciation. By taking every bit of life and applying large doses of appreciation, your life will quickly morph into something fantastic. Sure, I know it doesn't make sense, but so what? That's what you got to lay aside. What's so great about making sense anyway? It has some advantages, but not that many. Not as many as those running things would like to claim. We have all, one and all, got some things we can truly appreciate. For me, twice a day, I have extended times of rainbow light filling my spaces here. About half the time, I cry with the intensity of the joy that it brings up in me. It's that beautiful, just awesome. You just have to be present with it, that's all. So, anytime at all I want to be in the vortex or in higher consciousness, all I have to do is be in heart and think of my rainbows. My love for the crystal and the light of the sun. It takes me there, gets me high. Sometimes I think I could actually become gratitude itself. Gratitude is the next step past appreciation. You just shine with it till it practically consumes you. And, well, maybe it does. My body's Mayan sun sign of Jaguar says this in the text. Jaguar is the god or goddess of gratefulness. Works for me, just seems to come so naturally. Since our business is all about following and being in our joy, in our bliss, I'd have to say I don't know a much better entry door to that appreciation and gratitude, which are also known for multiplying abundance. Now, just consider, what if light is really so great that your main job is just to be happy? And I'm quite serious here. Please consider the possibility. What if sickness isn't really anything in itself, but is rather the blocking of an ever-present flow of wellness? What if there was no bad stuff, but instead just the blocking of good stuff? Like no dark switch, just a light switch. What then? Could you adjust to that way of seeing, to that perspective on life, even for 5 minutes? Even if it seems too daunting at first, being so far off from how you presently see things, there is no need to make it into an all or nothing deal, thinking you have to totally get it now or walk away. That's mind at work, that 3D stuff, either or. So you can safely just set it to the side, ignore it. Even just enjoying this new perspective for 5 or 10 minutes is really useful. It grows on you all by itself. It just feels good. We're stepping beyond the age where we believed we had to muscle life in shape with strong, determined action. Yeah. When we take this new angle of view, we begin to realize that the good stuff is and always was flowing. We just had it blocked. So no muscle, no action is required. The good stuff already exists, already flows. Your perfection just is. What's required now, seems to me, is much more of a tuning in and allowing the flow. So, what if it's being happy that enables that flow? What about that? Can you make room for it? There may be some old beliefs that do have to go at some point before you continually occupy this happy space. But you can just set them aside for now and take 10 minutes by ignoring them for a little while. Hey, even 1 minute, you know? It's so funny, my friends, but it turns out we've made life out to be far, far worse than the beauty that it is. We've personalized the bad stuff in so many ways, even to the extent of creating not just enemies, but demons and the like. What if it's really not that way at all? Unless we believe it is, of course, for all beliefs create in your personal reality, not in your brother's. I'd say it would do us all good, and even the broader world, the universe, and the cosmos good, to spend some pleasant time envisioning life in this really great way as being the abundant flow of wellness and goodness ever available universally. Then we could just revision the self and the self's beliefs to accommodate that. Now, sure, it's easier said than done, but not by that much. Come on, how hard is it to be happy? Only on purpose instead of just accidentally? This is very much a part of taking your power back from everything external, not to let yourself be controlled by outer circumstances or others' actions. Can you see that? You can feel it too if you walk down this road a bit. Now, I don't even like using the question, can you? Since of course you can. The question is really, will you? Do you choose to? Not, can you? It's always a choice. And since it has to do with you, that puts you in charge of it. You do see this, right? It's there to be seen, but it may be that some old beliefs hanging out are still in the way. As you shift those around or eliminate them, once you've seen them clearly, your vision will shift right away. This stuff is so very possible. But it turns out you have to take the leap before getting the proof or evidence. Backwards again. Do you see? The skeptics and the scientists don't want to believe until they can prove it, never knowing that their whole approach doesn't have the potential to deliver what they are after. Or it does, but only in a limited way. There is much truth that will never be seen by that approach, since it turns out that it's beliefs that create. So if you don't believe in whatever it is, you are not likely to see any evidence of it, as you're not creating that in your reality. Your beliefs don't permit it. They screen it out. So it turns out that you have to believe first. Backwards, of course. Or is it really? Couldn't it be that we were the ones who have been trained to be backwards, believing in the scientific method and such left brain-centric ways to view? Could it be that life itself is actually far, far simpler? I think it could. At any rate, that's how I'm choosing to live my life. My number one job now is being in a really good emotional place. Call it happy, call it joyful, call it sometimes even bliss. I am quickly discovering how that serves not only me, but others around me too. I know many are lifted up by what's in the journals, including me. Funny, though, that may seem to be another backwards thing. Maybe it's my intentional pursuit of joy that's making for so many upbeat journals lately. Could be. Gotta tell you, it feels really good. I'm making really good use of the Abraham vids to help keep me soaring more and more, training myself into that so that becomes the new norm. So I'm choosing new habits, ones I highly recommend. Reprogramming mind. Even if you can bring just a smidgen of lightness into your day, by doing that every day, the momentum will build. And that also makes it keep getting easier. So I'll close with the reminder that our body's five senses don't report all of reality. That the vibrational reality is primary. That's what eventuates in 3D manifestation. No building goes up that wasn't a plan, a thought, or an idea first. I don't know how to define or even identify mine in the midst of all of this. Much of it actually makes good sense, such as the architect's plan following on his original idea and the building following after that. Though I've learned to be cautious around things that make mind sense, yet things like that clearly do. So there are elements of mind woven in here. Yet I'm not too sure it's only 3D mind. I just don't know. Maybe we're even being taught to think in a new way. Who knows? Maybe being so very flexible in being willing to look at things from any and all angles has this as a natural consequence. I don't really try to figure things out anymore. Why not? Well, it doesn't always work, and I find it tends to bring me down in frequency. So I just let things flow and enjoy watching them as they go by. They don't really go by because I'm not at a point in time-space. But anyway, I trust hindsight more and more to clarify things, and it does. Even though, for instance, I know that all time is just now, I also know we can take advantage of certain aspects of it here in 3D, a linear time. I'm pretty sure time plays an important role in why we like to come into embodiment. It's such a radical change from our naturally all-knowing state. So it's fun, if nothing else. Can you see it that way? Maybe as a vacation from that. Play with it. Have some fun. Don't limit yourself, Don't let your belief that life is supposed to be hard get in the way. Kick that puppy out. Let your life be way more about fun than it has been. Don't let those around you bring you down either. Don't share this stuff with those you know won't understand. It'll only get you into discussions you can't win since you're working more higher dimensionally, and they're likely stuck pretty tight to 3D. Well, 3D just doesn't contain the answers or explanations to this stuff. So talking about it with those it doesn't resonate with will likely just pull you into left brain. Do you see? When we're younger, we're so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in our belief that we can change the world. Or at least the opinions of one person. As we get older, that starts to change for most of us. If you're like me, you've shared and argued till you were blue in the very sincere face, trying with all your heart and might to convince someone of something so very obvious to you, to no avail. Well, maybe that's perfectly okay. Maybe that's what it takes to convert you into a more true belief. Maybe that's even the way it was meant to be. Well, why not? What else would take it? What else would it take to quickly make us realize the futility of that approach? That sets us up nicely to be ready to realize that it's only the self we control. The missing part in that view is not realizing and respecting the awesome power of that very self to manifest change. Once we get that last puzzle piece in this particular puzzle, boy, are we ever self-empowered. We have enough puzzle pieces for things to start becoming really clear already. We begin to see all those seemingly endless ways we were taught and trained to give our power over to others. Things just begin to click, and we discover that our true happiness lies in only one direction: within. We contain the contentment we crave. Yeah, it's all backwards, but of course. Zen and some other such teachings have a bead on this one. They really seem to know. They don't come right out and tell you, but their stories do. And, backwards as usual, their stories don't make sense until we've had a sufficient amount of experience trying to do things the old way. So we come back and meet ourselves in the end, realizing finally that what we went out on our journey to find was right there within all along. The farther we sought out contentment, the farther we got away from it. Rather like clockwork. We were actually pushing it away. Very strange. Well, I welcome the strangeness now, and I bet many of you do too. I finally learned that it's not out to hurt me or even teach me or anything. It's just there and available when we're finally ready to attend to the wisdom it hides. Yeah, paradox is ever found on the threshold of wisdom. At least that's what I found. Namaste.